Hello, welcome back to the Fantasy Football Show. Wednesday night, we're going to go over the rankings here, compare them to the industry consensus, and this is a big week. I would assume most fantasy leagues, this is the last week of the regular season, so you're probably needing a win for one reason or another, whether it's playoff seeding, whether it's getting into the playoffs, whether it's ruining it for your friend. Like, it's a pretty big week no matter what. So we are here to answer any questions you have. If you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, definitely leave questions in the comments and we'll get to those as well. Also, in the description, you can find a link to the rankings so you can follow along. Those rankings will continue to be updated throughout the week. But for now, let's jump into what I have for quarterbacks. And I was saying prior to the stream, I don't feel good about any of these quarterbacks. I had Justin Herbert top 5, and I moved him down to 10 in my recent update because of the wide receiver news for him. But we'll start right now. Number 1, I have Josh Allen at Tampa Bay. Number 2, Lamar Jackson at Cleveland. Aaron Rodgers, 3 versus the Bears. Taysom Hill, 4 at the Jets. And Dak Prescott, 5 at Washington. So, Trevor, what's your thoughts on those 5 quarterbacks?
I don't like Josh Allen or Lamar or Dak Prescott. Josh Allen to me has just been kind of shaky. I don't think he's bad, but he doesn't impress me. Lamar, he was bad last time he played Cleveland, and I don't think it's going to get better because I think the recipe to beat Baltimore is pretty clear, and I think the Browns should be able to do it with their regular pass rush, let alone the blitz. And then Dak, I like him. He can do it. But when I look at a guy like Brady against the Buffalo secondary, down Tre'Davious White, against Patrick Mahomes against the Raiders, I wouldn't have him 5, although I don't think that's the craziest place for him to be.
So on the flip side of that, I love Josh Allen number 1. I think this is gonna be a great game to watch. Tampa Buffalo, they're both going for seeding in the playoffs. And Buffalo's they can't even run the ball against a bad defense. They're definitely not gonna be able to run the ball against Tampa Bay. You get Josh Allen, like this might be a 40 to 50 pass attempt game for Josh Allen. That just means points for fantasy. And I would imagine, if Tampa Bay is so locked in with their front seven so good, Josh Allen's going to get out of the pocket a couple times. I know they have fast linebackers, but he's a good runner. Maybe get down to the goal line. Buffalo likes to take deep shots, but Josh Allen just, he's a stud inside 10 yards running the ball. So I love Josh Allen here. In my opinion, I'd move Rodgers up to number 1. Zach, you talk a lot about T.Y. Hilton going and scoring touchdowns in Houston. Packers, Bears, Sunday Night Football usually ends up being, 42-7, Packers winning. And 6 of those touchdowns come from Aaron Rodgers. So just based on consistency alone, I'm throwing Rodgers up there number 1.
Yeah, Rodgers is a tough one to rank for me this week. He definitely, I think he's going to have a great game regardless. It just depends on how that translates to fantasy, obviously. Yeah, obviously we're in line, Luke and I, with Josh Allen. I just think the Buccaneers are going to have zero trouble with the Buffalo defense. They're just going to run the ball probably majority of the time. And then once Buffalo tries to overload the box, Tom Brady's going to hit whoever is in man coverage or single coverage. So I think it's going to be a pretty balanced approach there. That's why I have Tom Brady a little bit lower. And Josh Allen needs to pass. Obviously, they're not going to run it, to your point. Lamar Jackson, I think I may be the most confident of him of any of the quarterbacks this week. They just played the Browns. And he watched all the film. He saw exactly what he did wrong, exactly the looks that they gave him. They're not going to switch up the looks. I'm pretty confident in that. It's Cleveland. Their defensive coordinator isn't great. They don't have the personnel to change things up. So they're going to show him the same exact looks, and Lamar is going to study those same exact looks. So I think he's going to be fine. That's where I'm at with him. And then Taysom Hill, man, I don't know what to do with Taysom Hill. Like his rushing is going to keep him afloat, but Jesus Christ, he's a bad passer.
To your point about Lamar, we've talked about this a decent amount. And yeah, like obviously he'll know the looks that the Browns are going to give him. Is he smart enough to be able to like do something with it? Like he should, and I don't think he has to remind himself how to breathe. That stupid, but the offensive coordinator doesn't help him out a lot, even when he knows what's coming. So I'm just wondering, do you think the offensive coordinator is going to step up too, or just Lamar's, Lamar's committed it to memory almost?
It's not the offensive coordinator's fault. He's one of the best in the entire NFL. I think he's really, really good. I think his quarterback coach is non-existent or teaching him wrong things. Like his quarterback coach is unbelievably bad. And that's why the in-game adjustments are so bad, because the offensive coordinator is up in the box, the quarterback coach is on the sideline, and messages aren't getting relayed. He's not learning. I don't think Lamar Jackson's good enough to adjust in-game to the looks he's getting thrown at him, but I think he's good enough to react to the stuff he's practiced and rehearsed in practice. So that's where I'm at with him. We'll see, obviously. To your point, I don't think he's necessarily a cerebral quarterback. He's not the Aaron Rodgers where he's at the line of scrimmage and reading what the defense is doing and then drawing up the exact thing to beat that look. He's reacting. He's an athlete. He reacts to what is coming at him, and he runs the game plan, put out for him. So I'm assuming the game plan put out for him is going to be directly combating exactly what they saw 2 weeks ago.
My thing with this game is I think the Browns suck. Like Baker Mayfield sucks. They only put up 13 points against the Lions. I think it'd be a lot of running, and I don't think Lamar passes a lot in this game. I think it's a lot of Lamar Jackson running, a lot of running back running. They have like 18 million running backs there that I'm sure everyone's going to get a little bit of work. But this seems like a big Lamar Jackson. Do what you do best, run the ball, get back into the swing of things, and let's get out of this game with the division win, and try to make strides for that number 1 seed in the AFC.
I don't have the numbers ahead of me, but he was obviously under pressure a ton in that game. I assumed he was sacked quite a bit just because it's him. He runs around until he gets sacked. They should just run the ball the entire time. Like that's how you slow down a pass rush. You don't want to be letting Myles Garrett tee off against your tackle, who I think is Villanueva out there, who's not that great. Like you don't want that the entire game. I can't imagine they do that again. And if they do, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Like that would be unbelievably stupid.
Yeah, the last time the Ravens played Cleveland 2 weeks ago, Lamar ran 17 times.
Yeah. I wonder, that's a game I want to rewatch. I wonder how many of those were called runs and how many of those were he's running for his life. Let's see.
Which both helps fantasy, obviously, but
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I would just assume, like what we were saying, I think there's going to be more called runs.
Right. Also threw 4 interceptions in that game.
He sure did. So did Taysom Hill last week, 4 interceptions. So
no,
both top 5.
I'm not taking Taysom Hill slander today. He was bad. Okay, he was bad. 2 of those I don't think were his fault. I think it was him.
I agree.
I think 2 of them were getting hit on the throw. He does suck though. But I will say his passing did get considerably worse once they decided to take 2 popsicle sticks and a little bit of baby glue and try to, put it together.
Yeah. I mean, at least now we see what doing a little bit more rehabbing helps with. We saw Russell Wilson rehabbed only 19 hours a day and he missed time. Taysom Hill, I'm assuming 20, 22, 24 hours per day he's been rehabbing, and he's going to play this week. So there you go. Just comparing to the consensus, I'm just going to use that to talk about these quarterbacks. I am 3 higher on Aaron Rodgers. Like I said, I have him at 3. Consensus is 6. 5 higher on Taysom Hill. So I have him at 4. Consensus is at 9. 5 higher on Cam Newton. I have him at 9. And consensus is at 14. He plays the Falcons, who I'm not afraid of. And he got his offensive coordinator fired. So I'm assuming they're going to run exactly what he wants to run, which is good for him. Justin Fields, I have at 21 against the Packers, which is 4 higher. And then I'm 5 lower on Kyler Murray, who I have at 7. I'm 7 lower on Justin Herbert, who I have at 10. Like I said, I had him top 5 prior to Keenan Allen is out with COVID right now. Mike Williams just talked about out with COVID. Obviously, Keenan Allen has the easier route to come back just because that was earlier. If both get ruled active, he'll be top 5 for me again. But then I'm just slightly lower on Joe Burrow as well. Do you guys have thoughts on any of those players?
I wanted to bring up Justin Herbert. It's not really a fantasy question, but does he throw a football too hard?
I mean, depends on who you at. Well, wasn't that the talking point?
Mm-hmm.
Like someone said that he throws it too hard. You know, if the wide receivers out there are that soft, then I guess I don't know. Ask any Brett Favre wide receiver with their ET crooked fingers how hard he threw the fucking ball. Like
that'll drive her to wear 2 pairs of gloves or whatever.
Yeah, it was just constantly he's breaking fingers. Does he throw them too hard? I don't know. Whatever. If that's Mike Williams' excuse for not catching footballs, then sure. I don't know.
I really like where you have Matthew Stafford. Last time these two teams played, Arizona did a really good job at keeping Cooper Kupp in check. And for whatever reason, the Rams this last how many weeks are going away from Cooper Kupp for like halves at a time, which is weird. I think the dimension that they added with OBJ should help mitigate that, where Arizona can't sell it out on it. But I still don't see all the confidence in him. Like, he has not been good for almost a month now.
Yeah, he's very clearly hurt. And to your point, like, he looks lost at times too. Obviously, McVay's in his ear telling him something. I don't know. To your point, he's thrown double or multiple touchdowns once since week 8. So, yeah, not very good. I do want to say I like Kirk Cousins this week. I only have him at 13. I think he's going to kill it. I think he's going to be really good against the Steelers. And I think Ben Roethlisberger is going to look good too. I think this game has sneaky shootout potential. I think both pass defenses are horrendous. And he doesn't have Adam Thielen, which definitely hurts. I know I've had to write up a bunch of stuff on this game already. And I know his passing props at 252.5, talking Cousins. I think he's going to pass for 300. Yeah. I think this is one of the easiest bets of the week. I think he's going to be really good. Wasn't Dalvin Cook possibly coming back now? I don't think he's going to play. I think that's gamesmanship. So I think he's going to be passing a ton in this game.
I think, I think he's gotta, because I do think Pittsburgh has a solid run defense. Nothing to write home about. But in order, the Vikings are in a very odd spot for a team that's had so many close games. Like, they're out of the playoff picture. They're almost out of the hunt right now. They need this win to get their season back on track, to get everything going. I mean, they just lost against the Lions. Like, this needs to be a good game for him. Kirk Cousins needs to get after it. Justin Jefferson's a stud. I think he gets a lot of work. I'm sure we'll talk about him in receivers. And I do think that Minnesota does try to run the ball a little bit to start, just to set up the pass. And Zach, I'm with you. I wouldn't be surprised if Kirk Cousins throws for like 200 yards in the second half alone.
So on Prize Picks, his line is 244.5.
Yeah, I like that.
So I just need somebody to put the over on. Ben 240.5. You think it's a shootout? You think he's going to be over that too?
Yep. I already put a bet in for both of them, throwing for over 250. So yeah.
These teams are very similar in my eyes. The way they're constructed, the way they play football, how bad defense, good pass, whatever. It'll be really really fun. I've been using that word a lot tonight, but it'll be a fun game to watch.
It will be. I do have stats written down here somewhere because I had to write an article about it. But both defenses have been even worse against the pass recently. The Steelers have allowed 7.4 passing yards per attempt over the past 3 games, which is not good. They've also allowed an average of 255 passing yards. The Vikings have the second worst passing yard average over the past 3 weeks. They have allowed 286. And a big reason for that, Everson Griffin is still out. He's out at least one more game. He's eligible to come back after this. Without him, obviously, their pass rush isn't as good. If the pass rush isn't getting to the quarterback, and we're asking Breland and Patrick Peterson and them to cover, which is not their strong suit. I don't know what their strong suit is, but it's definitely not covering the pass. So I think Ben's going to get loose. I don't know. I think he's going to look fine in this game. He's kind of on his farewell tour now, which I guess is a thing. And I don't know. I think he's sneaky good too. We'll see.
There was
any other?
Yeah, there's one more quarterback I want to talk about is Russell Wilson. I know that I've made fun of him a lot lately, but he looked fine against San Francisco last week. And what's crazy about that is that was the ending of the doctor's timeline when he should come back from his injury. He looked shitty the 3 weeks before or 2 weeks before, and then finally when it's time to return, he looked fine. It's crazy how that works.
Yeah, it's almost like his concussion water didn't help him with his finger and whatever other treatment he's doing.
I subscribe to the theory that he didn't practice the 2-minute drill enough. That's just me.
Maybe. Who knows?
I subscribe to the theory that Rodgers gave him some peyote.
We all have our theories. Any other quarterback you guys want to talk about? No. Okay.
Nope.
Let's go to running back. Right now I have Austin Eckler number 1. I had him number 1 before the wide receiver issues, but especially if they're out, I mean, he has to be force-fed the football. I have Joe Mixon number 2 versus the 49ers. Leonard Fournette 3 versus the Bills. Najee Harris 4 at the Vikings. And Alexander Madison 5 versus the Steelers. Luke, what do you think about those running backs?
I know we just talked in depth about it, but I love Najee Harris this week. I would even move him ahead of Fournette. But I think in order for Ben to be good, Najee Harris has to be good, and that's a lot of checkdowns, a lot of screens. Just get the ball to Najee Harris however you want. And Joe Mixon, I talk about every week, but the dude's an absolute stud at running back. I know he got bottled up last week, but against the San Francisco team doesn't scare me a lot. I know they like to get after the passer, leaves a lot of room open for the run. And just like you said, Zach, Austin Eckler, should see probably 30 touches this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I really like Alexander Madison. He kind of reminds me of Jerick McKinnon a couple years ago for the Vikings in that he's really good in that system. I think the system does very well for him. He's going to get a fat contract and he's not going to really do anything. He works perfectly for the system. I like him this game. Passing, rushing, he can really do it all.
That's funny you said Jerick McKinnon, Trevor, right when you said it. A notification came out about McKinnon, the hockey player for the Avalanche, on my phone, right? You said McKinnon.
Same person.
Right.
I will say Elijah Mitchell is now looking like he's not going to play this week. I have him at number 6. I think he's in concussion protocol, but then on top of that, he's getting his knee looked at, and there's something aggravating him in there. So, I mean, I don't know why he would play this week. If he doesn't play, obviously, I love Jeff Wilson. I wouldn't have him as high as Elijah Mitchell. I'd probably put him somewhere between running back 12 and 16, probably. I think I like him more than Ezekiel Elliott for sure. But yeah, what's your guys' thoughts on Ezekiel Elliott, actually? Because he's one of those guys I really don't know where to put him at this point.
So I don't usually do this much, but I came in prepared to talk about Ezekiel Elliott. I don't usually come in prepared to talk about someone. But Tony Pollard has looked good. Especially if Dallas is... Washington and Philadelphia are both gaining on that division right now. Dallas needs a win. Tony Pollard has looked a lot better than Ezekiel Elliott. I don't see why Dallas should shy away from Tony Pollard. Like, we're not getting Ezekiel Elliott from 3 years ago where he's getting, 25, 30 touches a game. Like, Tony Pollard, I think, is a starting running back in this league. And I think Dallas is kind of using that in to me, it's like a 60-40 split. So that's the only reason I don't like Ezekiel Elliott. Like, whatever matchup it is, I think I don't like him. He just not being as used as he was in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Apparently, he said his knee won't be healthy for another month, which then
looks like it.
Why is he playing? Like, Tony Pollard has been very good. You're playing a bunch of nobodies. The division, he went against Washington is basically locked up, 3-game lead with the, head-to-head. I don't know why he's playing. He doesn't look good. He definitely doesn't feel good. Like, this is a team that kind of reminds me of, like, the 2019 Packers that barely beat everybody. Like, if he's not good to go for the playoffs, they don't stand a chance in hell. And I don't know, even if healthy, if they stand a very good chance. So the fact that he's playing with it against nobodies is extremely concerning.
I mean, it's a similar situation to Russell Wilson where they just sort of play through the injuries and kind of in their own stubbornness and hurt the team. To your point, Tony Pollard's definitely looked better. They've also used him better.
Yeah.
Like Zeke, they're either running him up the middle or they're splitting him out to run routes against cornerbacks, which is the stupidest thing of all time. And then Tony Pollard, they just run outside zones and those are open. Like even Zeke would at least get some yards with those, but Pollard obviously is so much quicker. He's more decisive. He just looks way better right now.
Is Kellen Moore a good offensive coordinator? I don't think he is.
No. I would say no. I think he does some good things. I think he overthinks a lot of things. He had a head coaching job lined up until the past few weeks though. So whatever.
I just wanted to throw my head in the ring for a Packers comparison like Trevor, especially because Mike McCarthy's the link here, right? Coaching Dallas. Does this remind you guys of, like 2016 Packers, 2015? Eddie Lacy and then James Starks would come in and he looked monumentally better than Eddie Lacy?
Yeah. I think so. Other than the only difference here is I think Mike McCarthy made that decision before, and I don't think he's making the decision now. I think it's Jerry and maybe a little bit Kellen Moore. I don't think Mike McCarthy has a role on this team. I really don't. He's just there.
Try to look
yes. Yeah, what a beautiful man. He's doing a great job at it. Yeah. Other running backs here. I struggled with the Packers running backs because I don't know the split specifically. I think Aaron Jones is going to be the majority leader again, and I think there's going to be some stupid Packer fans upset about it, though. I have Jones at 13, Dillon at 21. I think Jones definitely gets more of the red zone work, so I think he is a better shot for a touchdown. What's your guys' thoughts on that? Obviously, 3 Packer fans here.
Yes, I agree. Even did Aaron Jones, I think, got the first carry 2 weeks ago when he was hurt.
Yeah.
So that watching that game, that spoke to me, saying, if Aaron Jones is playing, we're going to use him. I mean, Aaron Jones is probably top 7, maybe even top 5 running back in the league. Like the guy's a good player. This seems like a game that it's going to revert back to what we saw at the beginning of the year, where everyone thought, we have A.J. Dillon for those short situations. Let's get him in, punch it in. Didn't really work out that way. A.J. Dillon kind of spelled Aaron Jones after 2 drives. I don't see that changing for this game. Maybe they get a little bit, keep Aaron Jones off the field a little bit. But I think first half alone, maybe in third quarter, I think Aaron Jones sees enough to be, top 20 running back this week, especially if he scores a touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, the split will be interesting. I think I'd hope they found something with the 2 of them. I mean, it's hard to argue with how A.J. Dillon has looked. Him as a pass catcher the last 3 weeks has looked amazing. That's something, well, maybe not amazing. That's a high bar, but that was something that we questioned coming into the season. Could he block and could he catch passes? Because that isn't really Aaron Jones's forte last year. So, it's going to be interesting to see how they mix it up because I don't know, looking at the Seahawks game, Aaron Jones had a lot of pretty big drops. Aaron Dillon has had some big catches. Granted, that was a couple weeks ago, but, is Dillon the bona fide passing back? I don't know, but they might try to make him. Who knows how this pans out?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a full timeshare. Like, I don't think they're even using them necessarily in specific roles. I think they both can sort of do everything given the situation. I still think Aaron Jones is going to sound stupid, but I believe it's true. I think Aaron Jones is a better short yardage runner, and I think they'll use him on the goal line more often than not, as has been the case the entire time they've been together. He just runs harder and is more decisive. Another running back here, Chuba Hubbard, obviously Christian McCaffrey out. I have Chuba Hubbard at 20 against the Falcons. Obviously, we talk about how rushing quarterbacks sort of open up those running lanes. I think without Joe Brady, there is going to be a very clear emphasis on the run a little bit, especially to start this game. There's obviously the risk of losing touchdowns on the goal line to Cam Newton. But I think the Panthers are going to look pretty good this week. But I have him at 20. I think he's an RB2. I would prefer to play him as a flex over an RB2. But do you guys have any specific thoughts on him?
This feels like a game where, like you said before, maybe this is a game where Cam Newton just runs the offense this game. If that's the case, that seems like a lot of, not necessarily options, but, read options, RPOs, a lot of stuff just getting at Cam Newton on space. Obviously, halftime adjustments come. I think Chuba Hubbard might see a little bit come second half if Cam Newton's running so much, because I don't think anyone on that team is trusting Cam Newton to throw the ball. I don't think Cam Newton even trusts himself to throw the ball. I think he would much rather run. And Zach, you're right. You're not going to get the goal line touchdowns from Chuba Hubbard. But I think, if they do throw Cam Newton, get a little blitz on him, might check down a couple times. Chuba Hubbard's right there. And I do think that, him with those options does open up the middle a little bit for Hubbard to go nuts.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can see him getting 100 all-purpose yards pretty easily and being a stud, but one that rounds out at about 15 to 17 points because he's not going to get those touchdowns unless he breaks a big one. This Falcons run defense is not good, so that's a good thing, but I also do think, like you said, Carolina's going to run a lot with Newton, let them run the offense. They're not going to pass because, why do they need to? And I think this is a game that should probably be winning too, so game script helps a little bit as well. But obviously his lack of touchdown upside comparatively hurts him a little bit.
I will say too, Zach, you said you'd rather have him as a flex than an RB2. I have him as an RB1 in one of my leagues.
Well, there you go. Let's hope he gets that touchdown then,
right.
Cam Newton. Like I said, I have him at 20. That's 4 spots higher than the consensus. The next duo here I want to talk about quickly, the Broncos, Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon. I think Melvin Gordon's going to play this week, and I believe everyone's ranking these two as if the Broncos are like, aha, Javonte Williams is good, and now Melvin Gordon's not going to get touches, which is one, extremely stupid, and two, wrong. Melvin Gordon's good at football. As much as people don't want to believe it, that's true. Also, the Broncos have nothing to play for. They're not going to make the playoffs. Why would they give a bunch of meaningless touches to Javonte Williams, let him get worn down quicker? They will let Melvin Gordon be that guy. He will be that sacrificial lamb. So I have him at 23, which is 10 spots higher than the consensus. I have Javonte Williams higher than him. I have him at 15, but that's 7 spots lower. The consensus is ranking him as a top 10 running back, and I can't imagine that would be the case if Melvin Gordon plays, I guess. That's how I view this backfield.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys know, but everyone, I'm a big Javonte Williams guy just because he went to North Carolina, whatever. But just being real, Javonte Williams hasn't really done much outside of last week, right? So,
right.
And Melvin Gordon, he hasn't. I mean, you're going to say everyone wants him to be that that running back Badgers came second to Heisman, whatever. Melvin Gordon has looked all right this year, at least I think. Especially on a bad offense. I don't know how Denver has as many wins as they do. I know they played a lot of bad people or a lot of bad teams. But this seems like a game where you throw Melvin Gordon in right away, kind of like Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. Javonte Williams look great, but no matter what, I think Melvin Gordon's getting the first touches, the first drives, and maybe even the first couple drives here.
Yeah, he's only, outside of last week, the most touches he's had in a game is 17. Against Dallas, he was only really serviceable because he averaged 6.5 yards a carry. Other than that, I mean, he hasn't topped out 14. He only has 3 touchdowns outside of last week. Like he doesn't give you a whole lot. Like we don't see coaches do that like sometimes they should. And here, like you said, Gordon's good. Like people forget he was a hell of a touchdown vulture early on at Los Angeles, and I think that's kind of still his role here.
Are you guys comfortable playing Javonte Williams' RB2 this week?
Yeah, I think so. They play the Lions, so it's not like they need to do anything fancy. I would assume they run the ball a lot. I don't know why they wouldn't. So I think both have a good shot to score. You know?
I think you could. I would just hope you have a better RB2. Like I'd like him as a flex, but I'd hope you'd have a lot of injuries if he's your RB2.
There have been a lot of injuries to first-round running backs this year.
Yes, there have.
That's to everyone making fun of me for taking Tyreek Hill top 3 in all my leagues.
Yeah. Well, in our leagues, you waited to like round 6 to take a running back. That was the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Other players, David Johnson, like he's sick. I get it. That's why he didn't play last week. I believe it was an illness, non-COVID illness. I have him at 36, and that's 25 spots higher than the consensus. So I guess I just don't understand because I don't know. Is there something I'm missing? Because I think he's fine. You know, against Seattle.
Yeah, I agree with you. I came in, especially when they got rid of Mark Ingram, maybe I'm like, this is David Johnson time. The thing is, he plays for the Texans, and he's only getting 10 to 15 rushes a game. I think he's looking fine with those rushes. The volume, I don't like it. The quarterback play, you don't know what you're going to get, especially with Tyrod Taylor getting benched. Who knew you would ever see that in NFL history? But it's too shaky of a situation, especially for this final week before playoffs. Like, you need a win, especially. And I don't know how comfortable you are with David Johnson, starting a flex spot. So just to throw my 2 cents in, Zach, you said you're 25 spots higher. I think I'd throw him somewhere in between. You have him at 36, and the consensus has him, 51?
61.
61?
Yeah.
I'd throw him somewhere in between there.
I think he's fine where he's at.
Low.
He's had 6 games with 4 more targets. That's gonna stay there. So if you have a PPR league, he's money for probably 2-3 receptions a game, which isn't much. He's probably not going to break any touchdowns, but that value is still there. And then he's gotten 2 straight games where he's had double-digit carries. Unfortunately, he hasn't been able to turn them into many yards. His yards per carry has not been good, but against Seattle defense that I think is 31st against running backs at this point, at least according to ESPN, I think he'll probably get that to more 4 yards a carry. Then if you think even if he just gets 10, that's 40 yards, 2 receptions, 10 yards. That can be 4, 6, 7 points PPR at the floor. I think that's good enough for where he is.
Yeah, I don't like him. Yeah. I just with his workload, I just don't see how he finishes much lower. To put it in perspective, the consensus has him just ahead of Royce Freeman and Justin Jackson. So
guys who don't play.
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't. They have Kyle Juszczyk, Lamar Jefferson, Matt Breida, all these guys ahead of him, like quite a bit ahead of him. So I'm like, okay.
What about Kabinda?
Kabinda, he's sneaky this week. Watch out for him. Dan Campbell's tape is out there now. Everyone has to scout it because he got to win. He has to switch it up. Never know who's going to be starting at quarterback. Never know who's going to be getting carries, special teams, defense. Jared Goff may be kicking off to start the game. We don't know. Like, it could be a really exciting game.
Be the best goddamn kickoff ever.
In fairness to Kabinda, he is the 3rd fullback that comes up when you vote for the Pro Bowl. So, hey, that tells you something. I don't know what, but something.
Earned my vote. Yeah, he's going to make it. Okay, any other running backs you guys want to talk about?
I just want to say hello to Kyle. He said hi. You didn't acknowledge him.
What's up, Kyle?
So I know we're kind of late in the year here to be talking about this, I guess, but if you have both of them or whatever, Ramondre Stevenson's the play for New England. over Damian Harris.
I disagree. I like Damian Harris more. He hurt his hamstring in the game.
That's right.
But I think they're even in terms of workload. I just think Damian Harris gets the call at the goal line.
Maybe it's because they ran it so much last week. But to me, and I guess Harris got hurt, but it felt like before Harris got hurt, Stevenson was getting, the first couple drives of the quarter, and Harris seemed to be the one spelling him.
Yeah, they were both worked in. Yeah. Even Brandon Bolden, I think, got double-digit carries at that point. I don't know how many times they ran the ball, but I know they passed it 3 times, so there's carries to go around.
I just want to say that's Bill Belichick's masterpiece. To win on Monday Night Football while only throwing 3 passes.
He went to bed smiling, woke up smiling. He skipped into the office the next day.
He's gonna be
so
pissed.
happy.
He's gonna be pissed that Mac Jones had 1 incompletion. Otherwise, 3 for 3 would have looked like a hell of a stat line.
It did make me mad though, because on Prize Picks I made the picks for that game like on Thursday, which should tell you be smarter. Don't do them way beforehand. And they were about Dawson Knox, Jacoby Myers both being over, and Josh Allen being over, and none of them hit because nobody did anything, which is fair.
To make you feel better, before I knew about the weather, I bet Mac Jones passing yards over, and that also did not hit. So, wasn't even close, actually, if you were wondering. It's at like 202. I'm like, this is way too low. No, it wasn't.
How about the people who had Mac Jones at 5 rushing yards, and he ended with 1 because of 3 kneels?
So stupid. I know Pat McAfee lost a big parlay earlier in the year because Tom Brady did that.
Yeah.
He lost it on the kneel downs and ended up being 1 or 2 short. They need to take that out of the NFL. There's a lot of things the NFL needs to change, but those shouldn't be negative rushing yards. That's so stupid.
Like, can you imagine?
Mac Jones backed way up too.
Right, like 3 times he backed way up.
Can you imagine like Tom Brady's old ass at like 50? He just won his final Super Bowl, goes back, takes a kneel, and loses the quarterback rushing record because of a 2-yard kneel.
Yeah. So stupid. Okay, wide receivers. Devontae Adams, number 1 versus the Bears. I have Cooper Kupp, number 2 at the Cardinals. Justin Jefferson, 3 versus the Steelers. Deontay Johnson, 4 at the Vikings. And then I have Tyreek Hill, 5 versus the Raiders. Trevor, what do you think of those wide receivers?
Good. I'm a little lower on Kupp because I'm scared with what the Rams have been thinking. I like that they got him involved a lot more in the second half. But again, like I said before, Arizona did a pretty good job on him last time. I think that's what they take away again. But other than that, I don't think you can really argue against that list at all, especially with the way Justin Jefferson has been playing.
Maybe the Rams finally figured out that Van Jefferson is the best receiver in that group.
Maybe that happens.
No, I'm kidding. But I agree with you, Trevor, on being scared about Cooper Kupp, because the way it seems to, the Patriots have made a dynasty off it. You have to take away the best option and then go from there, make adjustments from there. Arizona, I think they're on a lot of people's frauds list. I know that win last week kind of helped them a little bit, even though it was against Chicago, whatever. But, Arizona needs a statement win. This is a statement win. You knock out the one contender in your division, and you go up 2 games. What Cooper Kupp, like the Cardinals have to take him away. Isaiah Simmons is there. I know he plays that safety linebacker role. I mean, they drafted him out of Clemson because he's so fast and versatile. Seems like he might be able to play a little physical with Cooper Kupp, just get him off the route a little bit. And I do think Arizona's pass rush can get to Matt Stafford by that time.
Yeah, the last matchup against Arizona was the only game the entire year that Cooper Kupp totaled less than 90 receiving yards. He had 64, caught 5 of 13 targets. Not a good day. 40 wide receiver 41 and half PPR. You would think that doesn't happen again. I need to rewatch that game, but yeah, I know for a fact Matthew Stafford got beat up. I know the Arizona pass rush was all over him, and I would assume J.J. Watt was there at that time. So I mean, the Arizona pass rush isn't as good, but still not bad. They're a fine team. They definitely need this win. I just don't believe in them, man. I don't fucking know. Like I think they're frauds, but we'll see.
You always have. Hey, at least you're staying true to yourself. So
and I've never been wrong. So
I would just like to give myself some flowers for predicting that he'd get under 90, no touchdowns. Because I am quickly going to lose the guarantee of the week lead to Zach. So I need to be able to, hang my hat on something.
Hey, there you go. Other wide receivers, I have Chris Godwin at 6 over Mike Evans at 9. I think he's going to be the wide receiver of choice in this game, mostly because he's better, but also because I think he plays a better role. DeAndre Hopkins I have at 11. I'm kind of willing to move him down. He's still not 100%.
Right, he still hurts. He feels like that, yeah.
Yeah, and Jalen Ramsey should be able to take him away. I guess I should see what happened last time. He had 4 catches for 67 yards in that game against the Rams the first time around. It's one of those things where I think DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. I think he could have success against Jalen Ramsey if they needed him to, but they have enough weapons where it's like if they take him away with Ramsey, they'll just look to the other guys. So
I think is Chase Edmonds back for this game too?
He can be. He's eligible. I think he's eligible last week too, but he hasn't been removed from IR yet.
Okay. I was just saying that's added another weapon, if he plays.
100%, yeah. Other players, I don't know who's relevant to talk about.
I did want to bring something up quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not even fantasy related, but where does Deontay Johnson rank in your guys' wide receiver rankings?
In terms of like just a player, right?
Yeah,
Not fantasy. He's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's top 10. He's probably in like that 8 to 12 range for me, personally.
I'm going to have him outside of the top 10, 100% because of recency bias and that drop touchdown. Like Ben Roethlisberger is not Herbert. You probably need to take off your gloves to feel the ball get into your hands, and he dropped it. So did he also play out of his mind that game? Yeah, sure. But we're not going to focus on that.
Some are saying
no. Yeah.
Some. Yeah, you're right.
Some. Fair enough. KJ Osborne, I was going to say, obviously Adam Thielen's out. I have KJ Osborne at 28 against the Steelers. I already talked about how I like Kirk Cousins. Obviously, we talked about where Justin Jefferson is. I think him and, alluding to tight end a little bit later, I think Tyler Conklin's going to have a good game too. I think they're just going to soak up targets. I think KJ Osborne's really good. I think the Vikings started to struggle and have had some really bad games when they fully ignore KJ Osborne. I think he's a really good player, and he should show it tomorrow.
Was Thielen or Jefferson hurt earlier this year? Because I feel like in the middle of the year, Osborne just kind of turned it on. And I don't know if it was because the receiver was hurt or not, but he was a fantasy pickup in the middle of the year. As a guy who could break out. There's a reason for that. Like you said, Zach, he's a good receiver, but being the third option on a team that hasn't really ran the ball well and is hungry for a win, it doesn't hurt as much as it sounds like it hurts.
I will say to that point, I
should say second
up because he obviously double digits last week because Thielen got hurt immediately. He had double digits against Cincinnati and Arizona, and then double digits against Carolina, and every other game he's been under 5.5. So kind of the definition of boom or bust, which would make sense given his role.
It's a good play to need a Hail Mary week in fantasy.
For sure. And I looked, Justin Jefferson at least has played every week. I think Thielen has too. I think they just went away from him. There were some games where he saw an increased workload, I think, when Dalvin Cook was out earlier in the year.
Maybe that was it.
But then they started to use Tyler Conklin more in the receiving game. And they just took him out of the lineup. I think they started to use fullback CJ Ham a little bit more and took that third wide receiver out. It just doesn't make sense. It's Mike Zimmer doing Mike Zimmer things, I feel like, with KJ Osborne. And that shouldn't happen in this game. especially if the Steelers bring a bunch of pressure. I know Darisaw is out for the rest of the year on the Vikings offensive line, so their offensive line isn't that great either. KJ Osborne can be that middle of the field underneath guy as well, and which isn't really Justin Jefferson's thing, obviously. So he should be able to just fill in for Adam Thielen. Thielen's great; he's way better, but he should do that role. Okay, I mean, comparing to the consensus, I have DJ Moore at 10, which is 5 higher. I think that's an offensive coordinator thing. Hunter Renfrow, I have at 16, which is 4 higher. He's an absolute stud. If he's out there in one of your leagues, definitely go pick him up. I somehow picked him up today. I don't know how, but I was thankful for it because I was starting Cortland Sutton, and I'm no longer doing that, which makes me happy. That guy is fucking stupid, man. KJ Osborne, 28. That's 10 spots higher. AJ Green, I have at 39, which is 9 higher. Oh, Josh Reynolds for the Lions, I have at 42. That's 4 higher. Jared Goff, obviously played with him in LA, and it seems like there's a chemistry there. He's definitely looking towards him, and I think he's a good pickup. If you're in a deep league, if you're really struggling for wide receiver, maybe you had people on bye and also have Adam Thielen or something, I think you could do worse than Josh Reynolds. Obviously, the matchup isn't great, but I think he's decent.
Yeah, I totally agree. It may sound like, oh, you got to take a Lions player. That's like whatever. Is DeAndre Swift play? He's not. Is he in or out? Do we know?
The report was he's getting better.
Okay, so
no.
So I don't.
So
I wouldn't think so.
If he doesn't play, the Lions do a lot of damage when they're coming from behind. When they hit all those checkdowns, that's how DeAndre Swift has been so great. Seems like Josh Reynolds might be that guy now, even with Jamal Williams there, because just of the chemistry alone. So I definitely can see, Reynolds having value for the rest of the year.
I think so. Obviously, there's no talent in that receiving core, except for maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown. But I would even argue that a little bit. Like, he walked in through the door and was immediately a starting wide receiver. So, whatever. By the way, this is random. Did you know Golden Tate signed with the Titans a couple of weeks ago?
Nope.
I found that out today, too. I'm like, oh, they should play him. Why aren't they doing that? Because that's what I thought. I wanted the Lions to sign him because at least he can play football. Like, sign someone who can catch passes, please.
And defensive backs. He's good at that too.
Yes, he is.
But also, Josh Reynolds is kind of like one of those plays every year where you're kind of watching like how you watch a horror movie. Because if he does horrible, you're going to get laughed at like by everybody in your league. Like, you idiot, you picked a Lions receiver. But he's got a good floor. Like, I don't know what's going to stop him. I am afraid that I just jinxed him, but I don't there should be nothing there unless St. Brown decides to combine the powers of all the St. Brown brothers and become Megatron 2.0.
So here's a question for you guys. I guess, is probably more pertaining towards DFS, but who would you rather have just without budget? Josh Reynolds or KJ Osborne?
Osborne. But I think it's at least worth a discussion, which isn't something, people aren't having.
I just figured one end, you're going to be the second option. You're splitting time with a running back and a receiver. The other side, you're the only option for a much worse team.
I'm loyal to the Lions, so Reynolds. That's also why I'm not very successful in DFS, because I say, hey, I like this guy. I'm loyal. And then they do shit predictably, and then I lose. So maybe don't listen to me, but that's my 2 cents.
Also, sticking on DFS quickly, people will... it's Bears week for the Packers, so people always want to play Randall Cobb. It doesn't look like he's going to play, so that sucks. Look towards Marquez Valdez-Scantling, though. He'll get at least 5 deep shots. We'll see if Rodgers can hit them this week. Going for lower, I have Jamar Chase at 15, which is 6 lower. I love that people are still ranking him as a top 10 wide receiver. That's cute. I have Elijah Moore at 26, which is 8 lower. Jerry Jeudy at 31, which is 4 lower. Tyler Boyd at 43, which is 4 lower. And that's it for relevant people. I would assume you guys agree with me, but like I'm right on Ja'Marr Chase, right? Like I feel like I'm too high on him, but for the people who have him at top 10, that's crazy, right?
Yeah, it is. And I just in playstyle, I tweeted out that everyone thinks, or Justin Jefferson is what everyone thinks Ja'Marr Chase is. I mean, he's a step down. T. Higgins has now become involved again. He's catching touchdowns, feels like, for like the last 5 weeks. And that's why I don't like Boyd either, Zach. I think this offense has been working with Mixon and T. Higgins, and I think they need to keep doing that because they play the Who do they play this week?
They play the 49ers.
Oh yeah, this is definitely a loser leave town game. Like loser, you're out of the playoffs when you have a better shot. So I do think that they need to win this game. I think Mixon and T. Higgins have been working, and I think that's going to be the recipe once again to win a must-win game.
Yeah, the funny thing about Ja'Marr Chase is even in that crazy start from week 1 to week 8, every other week he barely eclipsed 10. And a lot of those weeks, he was buoyed by a touchdown, i.e. the game against the Jets, Detroit. And so now he's, to your point, Luke, not getting those touchdowns, and that's T. Higgins. Go figure he's not doing so well because he isn't getting the deep play touchdown every game. He's not like it. I feel like people are thinking about him like a dynasty league. And if you're not in a dynasty league, what are you doing? And if you're in a dynasty league, stash him. You don't have to trade him, but he's not worth starting as a 1, that's for sure.
Yeah, and obviously the argument on the other side would be if he catches that touchdown last week, it's a completely different story. My argument to that would be I think he leads the league in drops. That or he's second to Cooper Kupp. I mean, he's really high. He's been dropping passes all year. It's not like, oh, now he's showing signs of the preseason when he had the drops. It's continued. So, yeah, whatever. Let's run through tight ends really quick here. I have Travis Kelce at 1 versus the Raiders. George Kittle 2 at the Bengals. Rob Gronkowski 3 versus the Bills. Mark Andrews 4 versus the Browns. And I currently have Darren Waller 5 at the Chiefs. We'll see, obviously, if you can give it a go. I do have Hawkinson at 6, though. Luke, what do you think of those tight ends?
Like you said, if Darren Waller can play, I think that actually hurts Hunter Renfrow. But I mean, he's good enough where he's good enough, and the position's bad enough where he can definitely finish, top 7 if he plays. I think I'm moving Rob Gronkowski up for the rest of the year. Chiefs offense is just too inconsistent for me, and everyone thought Rob Gronkowski's been done, but he's just been doing Rob Gronkowski things.
Yeah, Gronkowski's an animal. Just an animal. He's got to be top 3 every week the rest of the year, right?
I'm going to do it until there's an injury tag or something. I think I have to. Trevor, any thoughts on those 5?
I like him. If Darren Waller doesn't play, does Foster Moreau go into the top 5 or fall somewhere in the 6 to 12 range?
The Chiefs. So I'd probably put him in the 15 to 18 range. I think I'd think of him like Tyler Higbee. He obviously wasn't as involved as he should have been last week. I think he's somewhere in between last week and his other start to season, which I think was 6 receptions for 60 yards. So, I think he's fine. I think he's a tight end too. I think if you needed him, you could play him. But I'd rather look for somebody like Tyler Conklin, who have a 12, or maybe somebody still sleeping on Pat Freiermuth. I'm not sure.
I was going to bring him up. He's only owned in 68% of ESPN leagues.
There you go. Yeah, he's really good. Definitely play him. Compared to the consensus, I'm 5 higher on Evan Engram. I have him at 13. I'm 7 higher on Nick Vannett, who I have at 21. The Saints are using him quite a bit. And he's a blocking tight end, so if they run the ball quite a bit, which I think they should in this game, it's really easy to do a play action and throw it to him. I have Kyle Rudolph at 26, which is 6 higher. That's not me saying I like him. He's just on the field, and he catches 1 or 2 balls per game. I have Dalton Schultz at 14, which is 7 lower. And then I currently have Ricky Seals-Jones at 28, which is 14 lower. I don't think Ricky Seals-Jones is going to play. Everyone kind of made him a priority pickup because Logan Thomas obviously is out for the year. Ricky Seals-Jones is hurt, and he's not practicing. So I'm not sure what people are expecting out of that. I think he's got a hip and a hamstring injury or something like that. I don't know. I'd watch it. And I know a lot of leagues, and I think maybe Fantasy Pros as well, aren't putting an injury take on him. So they're kind of baiting you a little bit. Just look into that.
I know I bring this up a lot, but when Jordan Reed got his knees absolutely blown out against the Giants when they're going for him last year, did that feel like this Washington game? To me, it felt like guys were just diving at Logan Thomas's legs. Knees were getting hit a lot in this game.
It seems like that's every Washington game.
Mm-hmm.
Like a team's doing that to at least one of their players. I don't know.
It says Sleeper says Ricky Seals-Jones was limited.
Did he finally practice today? Okay.
Yeah. Which, I mean, Washington is a weird team. I feel like no matter what, every single week, one of their tight ends is battling like multiple injuries. Which, granted, that's a lot of tight ends. But Washington, man, gotta love the grit.
They play 100% of the snaps. Like whoever the starter is. Like, what are you doing? Take him off the fucking field, please. Jesus. Any other tight end you want to talk about?
Dan Arnold, we miss you.
We do.
I was going to bring up Hayden Hurst. Did they activate him off of IR?
I believe so.
So where does he move up in your rankings?
Man, let me look at his stats here. Not very high. Obviously, he's going to be on the field. I don't love the matchup against Carolina. Carolina's pretty dang good. I'd put him behind Cameron Brate for sure, who I have at 24. I'd put him in that Alberto, Kyle Rudolph area, Josiah DeGuara. I don't know. I feel like DeGuara is going to get involved this game, but we shall see. But yeah, he's in that range. He's just kind of there.
Fair.
Trevor, do you want to talk about the guarantees while I figure out what I'm going to do here?
Yep. Quick recap. Zach said Chase, not top 12. That was correct. I said Hurts, not top 10 quarterback. Technically right. He didn't play. And unfortunately, Luke said Tim Patrick touchdown. Tim Patrick got like 1 reception. But but you know what? That means he'll catch a touchdown this week, I guess. Right. I can go first if you guys don't know yours. I'll go with mine.
Go for it.
I got to try to see if I can go 2 for 2 with this. Like I said Kupp wouldn't get 90 yards and would have 0 touchdowns week 4. I think his yardage goes up because OBJ opens it up for him, but I still think they hold him under 110 yards and no touchdowns.
Okay. I got mine here. Sorry.
Go for it.
Mine's a quick one. Give me Austin Eckler 30+ touches.
That's good. Especially if either of those wide receivers are out. I'm going to go with the betting line here. I'm going to go Kirk Cousins over 252.5 passing yards. 110.
Bingo.
So basically double your money on that. That seems easy.
Hey, parlay those 3 picks if you can find lines for them anywhere. It'll win you a lot of money.
Good. I think you can at least do carries on Bovada. I'm not sure if you can do total touches. Yeah, do it up. This was the Fantasy Football Show. Obviously, like I said, if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave questions in the comments. We'll get to those. Otherwise, right after this, if you're watching live, we will be doing Lombardi Sweep, talking about the Packers, possibly a short show, because we don't have a game to recap. We just have Bears week to talk about, I guess.
We do. Yeah. We have the Lions game to recap, sir.
We can. I'm not sure if I want to cry on stream, but I think we can try to muscle through it. Okay.
Janet will be back in that one.
Yeah. If she still hates the Lions, we need to call her out. Okay, so we will be back in 10 minutes.